سيدنا محمد وعلى ربهم ويطهركم تطهيرا. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل أفضل الصلوات على أسأل المخلوقات لك حبيب الله محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك ذاكرون وغفل عن ذكرك الغافلون. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. عدد خلقك ورضا نفسك وزينة عرشك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك ذاكرون وغفل عن ذكرك الغافلون. وسلم ورضي الله تبارك وتعالى عن كل الصحابة أجمعين. وأنت حسبنا ونعم الوكيل. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. نستغفر الله نستغفر الله نستغفر الله العظيم. فاعلموا أنه أفضل الذكر حقا لا إله إلا الله حي باقي حي موجود حي الذي لا ينام ولا يموت لا
محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كلمة حق عليها نحيا وعليها نموت وعليها وبها نبعث إن شاء الله تعالى من الآمنين بالله وكرمه. جزا الله عنا سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم خيرا مما ولو. جزا الله عنا سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم خيرا مما ولو.
الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. صراط إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. فضل الله سبحان الله تفضل يا أحباب.
والجبال وخطاه وأنشر من قصة مولد نبوي برود الحسان نقب قرية لمن من النسب الشريف غدا تحل المسامر بخلاف والسيد بحول الله وقوته القوية فإنه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. اللهم قبره الشريف بحرف شديد من صلاة وتسليم. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه.
فأقول وسيدنا
محمد بن عبد الله ابن عبد المطلب واسمه شيبة الحمد ولدت خصاله الثانية ابن هاشم واسمه ابن عبد مناف واسمه المغير الذي أنى بالارتقاء لعليا ابن كسير واسمه مجمع سمي بكسير لتقاصيه بلاد خداعة القاسية إلى أن عاد الله تعالى إلى الحرم المحترم فحماهما ابن كلاب واسمه حكيم ابن مرة ابن كعب ابن لؤي ابن غالب ابن فهر واسمه قريش وإليه تنسب البطون القرشية وما فوقه بنان عبد المطلب وابن عبد الله قدر اللهم قبره الشريف بحرف نقيم من صلاة وتسليم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه.
Guys, just adjusting this with the ladies also, so that they can see properly. Shukran people, it's always like mind-blowing listening to you. Alhamdulillah, this takes into another world, you know. Inshallah ta'ala, what I will speak is a general topic on praise and celebration. I've written something before about it, and a number of people have actually asked me to include some of those ideas in my short talk tonight, inshallah ta'ala, and hopefully I first of all benefit from it, and all of us benefit from it, inshallah ta'ala. And as you know, immediately after this, we're going to the short riwayat, the Qiyam. I've entitled this on praise and celebration, just in general, okay? And this crosses so many aspects of Islam, like the Eids and Ramadan and a whole lot of events, you know, that are significant to our being Muslim, and the way in which we celebrate, the way in which we engage in praise of Allah Ta'ala and in praise of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So if you look at the two salahs, for example, along the khutbahs and the sermons of the two Eids alone are significantly placed at the very beginning of the day of these two great Islamic occasions. Why? Because they act as a singular reminder, people, that no matter how joyous a celebration might be for us, that the centrality of Allah and Islamic spirituality in our lives ought never to be ignored. That's the important part about it. Our celebrations, our festivities, and commemorations are invariably configured within what? Within the orbit of Islamic spirituality. We should never forget that. Okay? Happiness, joy, elevation, exaltation, all these things we feel, and we're entitled to feel it, or to feel these emotions. But never forgetting that that orbit in which we are is one of spirituality. Okay? Nevertheless, it remains a sunnah, of course, to rejoice. On Eid day, for example, both Eids, Fitr, Eid al-Adha, and other occasions, we rejoice. To in effect feel and experience that joy, regardless of what, regardless of how bleak and how dim matters might be. And this is an important aspect of our Islamic perception of things and perspective of things. How we relate to things that might be difficult to negotiate, burdensome, challenging, etc. So our rejoicing, however, need to be read as a need not be read as a moment of insensitivity towards the suffering of others. That's completely haram. It's not to be read in that particular way, no matter what. Okay? It's a sunnah to rejoice on Eid day no matter how bad things are, for example, on both Eids. Okay? On the contrary, our rejoicing is an expression of the Quranic verse, which says, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ subhanallah. Ya Allah Ta'ala is telling us, O my servants, you who have transgressed against yourselves, this includes all of us, you who have transgressed against yourselves, أَسْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. Never despair, even if you've done that against yourself. Don't despair of the rahmah of Allah Ta'ala. Inna Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'an. For Allah Ta'ala eradicates and forgives all dhunub. And one of all sins and crime, whatever you do. And that is why the Prophet said in another hadith, and just got briefly, where he said, we cannot judge anyone until the moment of the gharghar, the death rattle, which we call the rochel here in Cape Town, is it not so? That death rattle. You cannot judge a person before that. No matter what your opinion of her or he might be, you are not God. Okay? We cannot judge. Doesn't mean that we should reprimand people if they're doing things wrong here and now and then, but you cannot keep a person a prisoner of his or her past. And that is a dictum in Islam and in Islamic attitudes. Okay? So we have to rejoice at the fact that even if we have nothing, people, other than Islam and Iman, that secure sense of faith, that this is enough cause for celebration. Just knowing that we are Muslim, and just knowing that we, are the bearers of Iman, that alone should trigger this sense of celebration within ourselves. Why? Indeed, Allah said, "Inna ad-deen indallahi al-Islam." This is the rahmah, this is the ni'mah. Inna ad-deen indallahi al-Islam. And here Islam is, and be careful people when you read these verses, these ayat. Here Islam is not presented as a falsification of other prophets and other religions. Of other prophets and other, it's not doing that. What is it doing? But as a pure crystalline distillation of those beliefs, those rites and practices that found both their manifestation and actualization in all their multifarious forms, like zakat and salah, in different forms and things like, throughout our sacred history, from the time of the Prophet Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. With the advent of the Prophet, of course, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that sacred chain of prophets and religions had come full circle and found its perfection in him as the al-Kaamil, as the perfect man. That's where, it came to the apex of what we know as Nubuwwah and as Risala, people bearers of Risala, the Rasuls and the Anbiyas. And in this, the latter sense I mentioned now, that of Islam and Iman in itself, in themselves being a ni'mah, in the latter, Islam is the ultimate ni'mah, people. It is ni'mah meaning divine grace. And within the starkness of the condition, we are in the starkness of this condition, of divine, of barakah, that we feel tonight here, we have to remember that in Islam, the emphasis is always on optimism, not on pessimism, people. Because of that, in another ayah it says, and those of you who despair of the mercy of Allah Ta'ala, you've gone astray. That's another ayah. Okay? So be careful how we locate ourselves with ourselves and with others within society. This, of course, will remain so, even though it appears as if we, at the moment, are going through what? Through one of our most trying moments in history. The global situation. SubhanAllah, it is chaotic. It is frightening. It's horrifying. If you look at all the latest things, I'm not going to mention instances here tonight, people, but we know what we are talking about. Okay? I don't want to ruin certain things. There are media and cultural bias against Muslims. Are there not? Religiously bigoted views about Islam that we read all the time. An active distortion about the political and the social conditions in many parts of the Muslim world. But when we venture, it's important, people, and this is something that I'm just going to, it's a technical fact, it's a fact that I'm going to mention, a statistic that is important and that is creating massive concern for many people who do not like the deen. Okay, I'll quote a Pew report here, the Pew Research Center. It's not the main theme of my talk. I just want to make you aware of it. That's why I'm including it. When we venture just below the surface, we encounter another story. That Islam is in fact the fastest growing deen religion on the planet, despite the best efforts by the propagandists to smear and demonize Islam and Muslims. In addition, and just as by the way, in between, okay, read this as an interlinear comment that I'm making. In addition, the world birth rate at the moment is 1.3%, okay, per year. While the Muslim birth rate, the growth rate, is 1.8%. Now listen to these facts, and these are the predictions. I'll go through this very quickly by the Pew Research Center. Their predictions: in the next half century or so, Christianity's long reign as the world's largest religion, 2017 facts and stats, may come to an end. According to a just released report that builds on Pew Research Center's original population growth projection for religious groups. Indeed, Muslims will grow more than twice as fast as the overall world population between 2015 and 2060. And in the second half of the century will likely surpass Christians as the world's largest religious group, believe it or not. These are facts, people, that are worrying people, okay? And are subliminally affecting their approach and attitudes towards us, demonizing Muslims and so on and so forth. These are stats that are a pain for them to bear. And just very quickly, by 2060, between 2015 and 2060, the Muslim increase in population would have been by 70%. The Christians by 34%, Hindus by 27%, Jews by 15%, so-called folk religions by 5%, unaffiliated, which is random, +3%, other religions 0%, and Buddhists is in fact a dying religion. According to this, they will be -7%. At the moment, and from 2007 onwards, Islam's growth rate, and this is the Carnegie endorsement for international peace, that particular, the Carnegie, famous Carnegie group. Islam 1.8% at the moment. Check the figures. Baha'is 1.7% growth. The Sikhs 1.6%. Jainism 1.6%. Christianity is the slowest growing religion on the planet at 1.3%. I'm not condemning anything, people. I'm not commenting on this. I'm just sharing these facts with you. And facts that are frightening, because the Vatican had very recently released these figures with their own analysis of it. Okay? They're both demographic, and they are also, they're not only referred to as conversions, people. In the world, they refer to it like the Pew Centers and so on. The term they use is switching. People are switching. Okay? So they give you get a percentage of birth rate, and then you'll get a percentage of switching. Not conversion or diversion or anything like that. But the technical term they now use is switching. Okay? For those in the know, people, I just want to share those facts with you. For those in the know, in the non-Muslim world, it is not going to be bombs, people. Okay? And they know it. Everyone else knows it. Non-Muslims also. It's not going to be bombs. It's not going to be bullets, people. And the behavior of crazy and disturbed individuals speaking in the name of the Ummah. It's not going to be them. It's not going to be the Shababs or the Boko Harams and these people, that will do they speak in the name of the Ummah, that will get Islam and Muslims anywhere in the world. But potentially this demographic fact, and if you will allow me to use switching as another demographic fact, not that this massive conversion rate in the world today, and particularly in the Western world, what we define now as Western world, that will have the greatest impact. Not people going to the roads with their bombs and guns and suicide bombings and people. It's going to be this demographic fact. And what frightens a lot of people is that when it comes to those who switch to Islam, are more women. The ratio of 5 to 1 women. And women are the people that are trying to use and demonize. Sorry, people, I just needed to share that, and let me get on with the talk now. That really intrigued me, and I thought, let me just share that fact. However, I say, my comment on this is yet, care should be exercised in this regard. Why? Because demographics alone is not good enough, people. And we have to admit that. So what is the mission of us as Muslims vis-a-vis all of this? What does the Quran say to us? When you see these masses and masses of people coming into the deen, which is happening at the moment, people, undeniably happening. It reminds me of Surah Al-Nasr. Okay? When إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. This ought to be our placement, our attitude, people, towards all of these that we see. Don't go around making idiots out of ourselves and rejoicing. This celebrity has become Muslim, that it goes viral. People, this children, you know. This ought to be our response. When the help of Allah comes and victory, the Nasr, when the help of Allah comes and victory, and you see people entering the deen in droves, then hymn the praises of Allah. Be then grateful and seek forgiveness. Seek forgiveness of Allah Ta'ala, innahu kana tawwaba, because He is the one who grants forgiveness. This ought to be our approach, people. Not going jumping with balloons in the road and you know, and all sorts of things, celebrating with people and boasting about it. No, we receive these things with humility. That's the way we do. And know that a person who comes into the deen and dies the next day dies a shaheed. This is the way in which we have to receive this particular phenomenon. And it's becoming a critical one because of all the hype about terrorism and about this and about that, you know, the lies about these things. As one Australian commentator said, beautiful sort of statement and you know, analysis of what's happening. And he ends up by saying, we know nothing about Muslims and yet we hate them anyway. That's amazing. Okay? So the message is clear, people. Islam is not the property or possession of any particular person. It's not. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to me to boast about when there is an increase in fortune and capital, for example. Okay? It is not a self-aggrandizing condition that entitles cradle Muslims like ourselves to sport and to parade their newly acquired wares. It's got nothing to do with me in that sense, people. And we need to be so careful about that. What indeed are required are gestures of humility and thanksgiving. Okay? That gratitude. فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ. Okay? That speak of hearts that are fully aware of the fact that Islam requires change, founded in what? Founded in a sacred and transcendent order that seeks to spiritually liberate the human condition from the most blameworthy qualities that blight that condition. And this applies to all of us, people. And once again, please, not in a pessimistic sense, in an optimistic sense, you know, in a positive sense. You see a fault, you don't go and get into despair and depression about it. No, see it and deal with it. That is the Islamic approach, people. It's not for me to condemn, you to condemn. It's not even for you to condemn yourself if you discover a fault. The important thing is, if you do discover a fault, then work on it. That's the positivism about Islam and change and transformation within Islam. Okay? On the other hand, qualities such as, I've got a whole range of them there, I'll mention a few, such as malicious envy, rancor, belligerence, bigotry, both intimacy and hatred of the other. And by the other, I mean people are not Muslim, okay? I'm outside of it. I mean, these things are not acceptable in terms of Muslim attitudes and that interaction with others. In other words, celebrating the entrance of droves of humanity into Islam is meant and designed to celebrate the great qualitative changes that may result from those who adopted Islam as the new faith. On the basis of what? Of the choice and free will. On that basis of choices that may well contribute to elevating some of our cradle Muslims who are sometimes fossilized in an arrogance and a self-righteousness that serve to destroy rather than proclaim the universal message of Islam. And this is what we've got to be careful about. It's about a question of consciousness. What is the social importance of these events? The social importance, however, should also not be overlooked. There are times during which thousands of Muslims they fill our masajid like we do now, to capacity in the Eids, Ramadan, Taraweeh, and all sorts of great occasions, Laylatul Mi'raj, Sha'ban, and so on, in a collective moment of elevated togetherness. It was so beautiful listening to, the recitals now. We just sort of go along. It's beautiful. It's epiphanic almost, in its rhythms and its meanings, and so on and so forth. There are also times of an unconditional giving and sharing, moments that know no borders, whether personal, individual, organizational. Those who fail to participate in this unity of experience can hardly claim to be celebrants, people, can hardly claim to be celebrants of this momentous occasion tonight, the Milad al-Nabi, or even of the momentous occasions of Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, etc., etc. How can we be? This unity of, this sense that we have is a sense that we need to internalize. And I might get to that. Moreover, this human togetherness we experience during these days of celebration in our masajid, as Muslims proud of our deen, proud to be the bearers of the message of Islam, needs to be transferred, and so I meant around, needs to be transferred into the broader area of our social living. And that is so important. That's not, it shouldn't be confined to masajid only, like performing salaya and outside you're a scoundrel, that sort of thing. Islam, in Arabic, is saying la yatajazza. It doesn't fragment. It is one holistic whole, and we've got to connect with the holism that is Islam. And as part of our own contribution to this togetherness, we need to join hands, people, with what? With whom? With those who are both firmly rooted in and creatively linked to our classical legacy, and more specifically, to that great tradition of Islam that finds its expression in what? In the voices of the likes of whom? Hujjat Abi Hamid al-Ghazali, for example, a Shaykh al-Akbar al-Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, totally misunderstood person, Shaykh Junaid al-Baghdadi, Mawlana Jalaluddin Rumi. I'll just end off with a short quote of Rumi, and so many others, people, of whom we can be proud. Even Einstein said that, commenting on his own genius, he said, all I did was, I stood on the shoulders of giants, and I could see. We need to stand on the shoulders of our giants, people, and see, and not close our eyes. When we pray with our eyes open, and stuff like that. Okay, that's just a pun. Far too numerous to mention, people, it is a tradition too, that has never failed to recognize and acknowledge that the Quran and the Sunnah form the twin sources of spirituality and barakah and divine grace in Islam. A spirituality and a grace that have found the infinite space, people, where the infinite space and flow upon the shores of those hearts receptive to the perennial rhythms of divine providence, on the hearts of people like Abu Hamid Ghazali, all these great people, Abdulkarim Jilani, and all of these people. And upon these shores, the hearts of these people, on the shores of their hearts, and across the ages, these people stand as gladiators of Islamic spirituality, who wield those radiant staves, staffs, but more correctly, staves, enlightened and enlightening in the form of tasawwuf. That's the most central aspect of Islam, of spirituality. And in these representatives, we find an Islam that combines fearlessness with wisdom, methodology with sanity, and a state of being imbued with confidence and dignity. It is an Islam that tells us, people, that when we invite to the way of Allah, that we do so with hikmah and with wisdom and maw'idatul hasana. Ulu ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal maw'idatul hasana. Quran. Invite to the way of Allah with hikmah and maw'idatul hasana, with beautiful exhortations. It is an Islam that tells us that the representative Muslims are those who are guided to the purest of words in speech, and who are guided into the path of the praiseworthy. And Quranic ayah in Arabic is وَهُدُوا إِلَى الطَّيِّبِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ وَهُدُوا إِلَى صِرَاطِ الْحَمِيدِ. SubhanAllah. It is an Islam, all the people, that teaches us that while it is permissible to requite the wrong, you can requite it if you want, it's alright, it's alright, that it is yet better to forgive. It is an Islam that teaches us that if we are oppressed and removed from our homes, as it happened in this immoral state of apartheid, that we are entitled to fight for the restoration of our natural rights. It is an Islam, moreover, people, that both teaches and implores us that if our enemies stop their hostilities with offerings of peace, that we in turn reciprocate with peace and get on with our lives. In short, it is an Islam. It is an Islam, the essence of which is taught in the various madaris, metaphorically, of Ramadan, of Hajj, of our Salah, of Zakat. And we need to take the lessons out of it. We need to understand the purposes. We need to understand the maqasid behind all of these great forms of ibadah. Here, why? Because we are taught the virtues of taqwa, of God consciousness, of Allah consciousness. For example, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Siyam is wajib upon you, in as much as it has been made obligatory upon those before you. Why? لَعَلَّكُمْ, perhaps, and this is the pragmatism of the Quran, perhaps you will be of the muttaqeen. It doesn't guarantee you will be. Perhaps you will be. But it is a divinely decreed way of becoming a muttaqeen. But it's up to us to apply ourselves in that particular respect. The virtues of discipline in the will, our irada, the will, and aligning it with the will of Allah. The virtues of purifying the heart and the soul, and the virtues of sabr, people, patience and endurance. Namely, what is sabr basically? It is that extraordinary and richly rewarding capacity to live with fortitude in the long term. That to me is sabr. Okay? And in these madaris of our ibadat, we are taught to be truly human. And we can only be truly human in Islamic terms if we live up to the highest standards demanded by Islamic spirituality. It is in the context of realizing, people, the greatness of spirit within each and every human being, that we come to recognize the greatness of Allah. And remember that, people. It is only through recognizing the fact that the Prophet said about the human being that you are in essence holier than the Kaaba, that we can really connect and truly connect and genuinely connect with Allah Ta'ala. Believe it or not. Hadith Sahih, people. Okay? Moreover, we need to live up to what? To the greatness of that spirit within each and every one of us. In order to what? In order to realize not only the meaning of takbir, magnifying Allah Akbar, and so on and so forth, on both aids, for example, but also to rediscover that spiritual umbilical cord that connects us to Allah. When we walk in the Hajj, we say Allahu Akbar, Allah, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, walillahi alhamd, things like this. We say that when we go, on Hajj and things like that. Allah is the greatest. 3 times we say, there's no deity other than Allah, for He indeed is the greatest. What do we mean by Allah is the greatest? Allah is the greatest, and to Him belongs all praise, only to Him. And finally, people, ultimate praise is for Allah alone. For it is nothing other than what? That praise for Allah. Than an echo that found its first articulation, people, when the children of Adam and Hawa were asked to bear witness to what? To their Lord their Rabb in their original state of primordial nativity. And this is important for us to understand. وَإِذْ أَخَذَ رَبُّكَ مِنْ بَنِي آدَمَ مِنْ ظُهُورِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ وَأَشْهَدَهُمْ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ أَلَسْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ قَالُوا بَلَى شَهِدْنَا. Subhanallah. And that when Allah Ta'ala took from the children of Nabi Adam and Sayyidina Hawa, took from their loins, the progeny, those of us to come, and وَأَشْهَدَهُمْ, ala anfusihim, and he had them to testify to themselves and to bear testimony to themselves, ala anfusihim, am I not your Lord? And the response was, Bala shahidna, indeed we testified. We testified, like primordial state people. But we should not forget our praise and thanks, of course, for those upon whom and within whom the imprints of that lordship or that rububiyyah have found their greatest resonance and expression. And who are they? They are those prophets, the saints, the awliya of Allah Ta'ala, those servants who have been touched in varying degrees with the radiance of divine grace. With the radiance of divine grace. And as living symbols of all that constitute the sacred, these are the people too we should never forget, like we are doing tonight in our commemorations and in our celebrations. They form as much a part of sacred history and memory as sacred, if not more on certain occasions, as those divinely selected and sanctified moments of space and time. By space, we mean, for example, the precincts of the Haram. By time, we mean, for example, Laylatul Qadr. These people share a similar degree in sanctity with all of these events. As those divinely events, they share an equality in all of that. And I would just like to end off with a little saying by Jalaluddin Rumi. I mentioned him earlier. The end of this is just 4 lines. Knock, says Jalaluddin Rumi, radhiyallahu anhu. Knock and he will open the door. Vanish and he will make you shine like the sun. Fall and he will raise you to the heavens. Become nothing and he will turn you, Allah, into everything. Become nothing and he, Allah, will turn you into everything. Wallahu ta'ala alam bis-sawab. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu
البرية وآت للزمان أن يمتنع عنه صدى قدرهم ليلة مولده الشريف آسية ومريم في نسوة من القديرة القدسية وأخذها المخاض فولدته صلى الله عليه وسلم نورية نحله السلام صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم
أشرق البدر علينا يا